Welcome back to all the audience to the panel discussion on business inclusiveness and sustainability. On behalf of CIMSME and GCPIT, I extend a warm welcome to our panelists for this session, Ms. Anandita Mukherjee Sinha, Ms.
Hi.
Claudia Segre, Ms. Deepa Sayal, Ms. Lavina Ramkisson, and Ms. Leila McKenzie. A warm welcome to all of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to everyone.
So before we begin, I would like to lay a bit of groundwork on the topic under discussion in the panel. Business inclusiveness and sustainable development is crucial to reduce poverty in all its dimensions. Many people are excluded from the mainstream development because of their gender, ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, disability, or poverty. No one can be left behind. Inclusive business work to improve access and opportunity for people at the base of the pyramid, no matter where they live, in the poorest of nations or in the thriving middle-income countries that are home to 73% of the world's poor people. For the women at the base of the economic pyramid, the situation is particularly concerning. The research in various countries have shown that women and girls fare worse than men and boys on a range of factors that may predispose someone to poverty. And the private sector has the power to close this gap. So, as a matter of concern and one that needs to be addressed, we at the GWBS have included business inclusiveness and sustainability as part of the panel discussion, where some of our inspirational national and international leaders from inclusive organizations will share the cause and effect of business inclusiveness and how their organizations have been involving women in their company's core operations. So in the light of the above background, I would like to introduce our panelists. First, our first panelist we have Ms. Anandita Mukherjee Sinha. She's the Head Corporate Communications for L&T Metro Rail, Hyderabad Limited. Ms. Anandita comes with a professional experience of more than 3 decades and fortunate to have... So requesting the other speakers to kindly mute your audio. So she comes with experience of more than 3 decades and fortunate to have enjoyed both the fields of operations and communication, working with public sector undertaking and global conglomerates. She excels in integrated communication, reputation management, and strategy formulation for all verticals under corporate communications. She is a winner of several leadership awards at the national and local levels and speaker for at least 70 forums, conferences, press meet, online mediums, and so on. And she is a real-life motivator for students and young professionals with experience in business excellence and CSR. So, Mrs. Anandita, I would like you to request to break this monologue by enlightening us with the first question. What is the economic rationale or basis behind business inclusiveness and sustainability? So over to you, Ms. Anandita.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to speak in this platform. Now, and I heartily welcome all the other speakers here. Good evening, everyone. And also, of course, the beautiful audience for without whom this session would make no sense at all. Now, for me, in a very simple language, what is inclusiveness? For me, it is acceptance. It is the bonding which creates the sense of ownership in an individual, to the organization, or to any atmosphere. So I feel that the bonding is the sustainability, is the what remains. That is all about inclusiveness. So, and of course, when we are creating this conducive atmosphere in a business, economic development has to happen. So inclusivity, I feel, impacts the business very largely. We all know, and this impact, it reaches far beyond the business. It creates a relationship. It creates a culture in an organization. Sustainability in a business approach for creating a long-term value by taking into consideration how a given organization operates in its ecological, social, and economic environment. And of course, this further helps in the state or the country's development for sure. It increases the economic index of the city and the country. Sustainability is built on the assumption that developing inclusive strategies can help or garner in a company's longevity. It stays. When we say a brand is created, so it exactly that what happens. A brand is created, an entity is created. It's not a short time outlook what we should have. So inclusive business find profitable ways to engage the low income segment into their business operations. This is very important. It benefits the low income communities and create this sustainable livelihood. Now the low income community, we should consider it as an integral part of a value creation process. It's just not them being there. They are the assets. So to develop a cohesive environment at work and not just create an office, space. From just being an office entity, the environment should be there. The healthy work culture should be there. So inclusion is the key word, and employees are the best brand ambassadors for any company. I think it has been proven, and I personally believe it. Being part of the leadership, and without human assets, a company cannot run. So inclusiveness creates this qualitative engagement among human resources, and that makes a business entity sustainable. Now, this impact, for sure, it is a very logical reasoning. I would say that it impacts the the growth, development, and prospect of a business. This is very important. And businesses that invest in human resources, which many organizations unfortunately still don't believe it, and this should be the investment should be with an unbiased and balanced mindset. The mindset is very important for the organization, for the leadership, for the management, and this establishes the brand. Of course, it benefits everyone, not just the targets of diversity initiative, but it helps in job creation. It helps in satisfied people in gaining employment, because they pass on the information, and the comprehensive culture which is being developed, it forms a very productive organization, a very qualitative employee relationship between the management and the employees. And there, these all garner in the economic growth of the company. Definitely the index goes up. So that is exactly what the rationale is behind this business inclusiveness and sustainability in my view. And diversity is the key to growth. So when we talk about diversity, it should be irrespective of gender, race, class, sexuality, disability, everything. It should be very unbiased. One has to consider, like how we mothers consider our children as our child. We don't see anything else. Like, so that relationship, that positive culture should be built in, to see that they are considered, each and every employee is considered to be an human asset for the organization.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Anandita. Just a request to the speakers, since we are running short of time, so please limit the answers within 2 minutes. Thank you. With that, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Claudia Segre. She is the president and founder of the Global Thinking Foundation. She carried out her career in leading Italian banks, specializing on international markets and in the deepening of global geopolitical dynamics and related economic financial correlations, holding positions of responsibility in the operations and managerial room in the parent companies of Gruppo Intesta, Unicredit, and Credem. A former member of the Council of Experts for the Sixth Finance Commission of the Chamber of Deputies, and was chairman of the Board of Education of ACI FX International, and now an honorary member of ACI International. She is the founding partner of ASEOM Forex and a former vice president of ASEOM. She was also the Secretary General of ASEOM Forex from 2009 to 2016, and is currently the Director in charge of publications and member of the Board of Directors and Presidency. Forbes named her as among the 100 most successful Italian women of 2019. And she's also the co-author of the book, Italy of Autonomies to the Test of COVID-19. It is a pleasure to have you with us today, Ms. Claudia. And my first question for you is, how inclusive business can help solve the sustainability equation? Over to you, Ms. Claudia.
Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here talking from Milan, unfortunately in a red zone under this COVID-19 emergency pandemic. And just to give a brief answer to your question, I think that since the mid-2000s, the development of finance community, long aware of the correlation between poverty and unsustainable resource usage, has come to see inclusive business as a promising sustainable development strategy for two reasons. First of all, it enables economic growth, private sector development, and poverty alleviation in a resource neutral or positive way. And second, it allows stretched public funds to be strengthened with private sector capital looking to combine profit with purpose. And we need to know now that we have to speed up and widespread the change of mentality. First of all, how we measure success in order to incentivize longer term thinking and value creation for all stakeholders. We need to experiment new frameworks, standards, and tools that help us think beyond near term profits and encourage to quantify the potential benefits and costs of our activities for individuals, for organizations, across under industries and sectors, and for the environment. And an example could be related to big corporates in US, and we need to create more value for stakeholders directly or indirectly and capture more of it creatively over time. We need to shift investment from less sustainable, less purposeful legacy activities towards a new vision we build over time. Finally, to solve the sustainability equation, we need to align core business activity to specific SDGs and collaborate across industries and sectors to engage more customers, suppliers, and employees in underserved markets. In the Global Thinking Foundation, all the activities that we developed in projects that we are directly linked to specific SDGs of Agenda 2030 of the United Nations. And year by year, we were able to produce annually yearbook to testify our improvement and support on achieving global goals with number and quantify social impact, working on equality of education, on fighting discrimination and disequalities, in gender equality, because we think that using financial literacy, we can prevent economic violence against women and reduce the poverty in education and from the economic point of view.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Claudia. We'll come back to you for further elaboration on that point. So with that, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Deepa Sayal. So she's a digital marketing trainer, mentor, incubator, entrepreneur, and a tech evangelist with 20 years of holistic experience in the information technology domain, and was featured in CNBC TV 18 to be amongst the 32 impactful women changing the digital world in 2017. She's been awarded with several prestigious awards, including Dun & Bradstreet Best Women Entrepreneur 2016, World Women Leadership Award, and Digital Leadership Award 2017 by She the People TV, and she was featured in the Financial Express, Z News, and Your Story as an inspiring women entrepreneur. She won the Kaleido Award under Best Use of Event Kumbh 2019, won Bronze Award by the Internet and Mobile Association of India for the Best Use of Twitter in 2020. She is also a seasoned author of the bestseller Digipedia, which is a basic guide to digital marketing and transformation. And in addition, she has sponsored education for 15 underprivileged girl children under IWIL India and worked with 2,000 women entrepreneurs and founder of 4 startups. It is great to have you with us today, Ms. Deepa. And for you, the question is, can you elaborate on the efficiency of inclusive business by using examples of successful inclusive business models? Over to you, Ms. Deepa.
Thank you, Bishma, and a very warm good evening to all the lovely ladies who are listening to me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to keep my answer short, but I'll define inclusivity as something that co-creates, in the sense that it's a cohesion that builds for all stakeholders equal opportunities, top of the rung and the bottom, communities, customers, companies. All of us are trying to create that ripple. And I'm very proud to tell you that I work for an inclusive company called IWIL India. We are partnering education with about 200 business schools in India. This is my basic definition. There's a beautiful interview that I was listening to for Lynn Forrester Rothschild. I was listening to an interview of hers, and she says, crony capitalism and inclusive capitalism. The point is for companies to build wealth, but also, also garner creativity, productivity with other stakeholders. And that is what we call inclusion and diversity. Coming to your question, Mishma, examples. I think back here at home in India, not just India, I'll come to the global scale also. Accenture is doing some pretty good job when you say inclusion. They're including specially abled people in their workforce. They think they are far more productive. We have Dell doing in networks like DWEN, DWEN. We have Nestle creating, sensitive training, educating people on gender bias, building diversity universities. Fantastic. Some of the companies are really doing some extensive work in this direction, and we are very, very proud. And more so, we have Johnson and Johnson, if you see at the global scale, where core of the function is the people, for the people, with the community. So I think inclusion is nothing but when we create capital with inclusivity and think about everybody in a rather inclusive perspective so that everybody is benefited. That is what my summary is, Mishma, and I've tried to be very, very brief for you. If you want more examples, I can go on and on and on, but over to you, and I'll be happy to answer whatever you want.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Deepa, for considering the time. And yes, we will definitely get back to you and you can elaborate on the examples. Sure. So with that, I would like to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Leila McKenzie. So Ms. Leila leads multiple businesses and charitable initiatives and spends her time dedicated to managing these directorships whilst continuing to promote and campaign for the benefits of diversity, inclusion, and belonging in business and in wider society. Ms. Leila has been proactive in her external engagements and has spoken previously for numerous companies, including KPMG, Verizon Media, Britwick, and Working Options. She was previously interviewed by the BBC journalist on the diversity dividend and benefits of intergenerational leadership. She personally hosts high-profile annual events, such as celebrating diverse and inclusive leadership, bringing together inspirational thought leaders from the industry. Ms. Leila McKenzie Associates is a bespoke executive search and services firm operating both nationally and internationally with a focus on diverse candidate slate. Ms. Leila is also a founder and CEO of Dial Global, which stands for Diverse, Inclusive, Aspirational Leaders. The purpose of the organization is to further develop diversity, inclusion, and belonging within business and wider society by giving leaders the knowledge and network to foster sustainable and positive change. So thank you for joining us today, Ms. Leila. And being an advocate for inclusive business, can you elaborate further on the efficiency of inclusive business by using examples of successive models? Yeah, over to you, Ms. Leila.
Thank you so much. And let me just say, first and foremost, it is an absolute honor to be sharing the virtual stage with such incredible, accomplished women. I will try and keep my answer very brief because actually a number of superb points were brought up previously. Deepa mentioned a number of key pieces that I also plan to mention. So I will keep my answer brief. For me, inclusive business should not be perceived as corporate philanthropy. Contrary to popular belief, I do believe that the lines are starting to overlap when it comes to corporate social responsibility. But for me, this is really about searching for sustainable, long-term, mutually beneficial business models that perform well by doing good, where this is part of the company's core strategy to doing business and being able to achieve this at scale. Some of the examples include the UN Global Compact goals, which have been mentioned, and also, in particular, supply chain diversity. I think when it comes to supply chain diversity, this should be something that is interwoven throughout the fabric of organizations' makeup. So making sure that the grassroots are diverse, inclusive, equitable, that we are really interweaving diverse suppliers right from the ground up through to the more in-depth areas of the organization. And this has had a direct impact on businesses when it comes to great examples like P&G, the $1 billion roundtable, which spends billions of dollars with diverse and minority suppliers. I think what's really important to mention here is that we do not look at this as this is philanthropy, we are trying to help help those who aren't as good. This should be looked at as a business strategic objective. If it is looked upon and viewed as something which is part of the makeup of an organization, that it is mutually beneficial to look at diverse and inclusive suppliers, look at diversity, inclusion and belonging as part of the staple of every organization's culture and what they do, then we'll be in far much more of a better situation. In terms of efficiency, as my final point, which was asked in the question, specifically, I think there does really need to be a top-down and a bottoms-up approach as well, and that line managers also need to be empowered and responsible for driving this agenda so that it spreads far and wide throughout the company. As all of us, I'm sure, here know on the panel today, there is no one silver bullet that will fix this problem. It is not a problem to be fixed. This is something that needs to be embedded through a number of different layers, through a number of different individuals throughout the entire organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lala. And with that, last but not the least, I would like to introduce our final panelist, Ms. Lavina Ramkisson. So Ms. Lavina is considered a thought leader in pioneering technology, passionate about humanity, technology, economics, and dance. So besides the 20 years of experience in technology, she holds added knowledge in the fields of psychology and artificial intelligence. She is an AI ethics mentor and driver of Africa's artificial intelligence potential. Our mission is to create meaningful, innovative solutions to help shape the African continent. Huge support of technology for good in underdeveloped countries. She plays in sunny fields across Africa's landscape. Her specialization, besides being a podcast guest, is in emerging technology spaces, including agri-tech, fintech, health tech, law tech, retail tech, and growing. Aims to educate, inspire, drive AI innovations across Africa. It is a pleasure to have you with us today, Ms. Lavina. And a similar question to you. Can you share your examples of successive inclusive business models? Over to you. Ms. Lavina, you're on mute.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks to everybody on the panel. Really excited to be here. I think some of the key examples have been explained. I would add to that in terms of saying those companies that have taken it on board and what they have then, utilized is the likes of Lenovo, creating their first chief digital officer and diversity officer. I mean, yeah, that's a thing these days. We have L'Oreal, who's taken, disabled and youth empowerment and managed to find a way to reenact and revision their business model. Accenture was definitely mentioned. And I think one of the other larger ones would be Alibaba and the likes of that in terms of women inclusion on the boards and, in senior management levels. And I think it was even, to quote Jack Ma, he says, it's very much his secret sauce. So I think, seeing it in practice makes it more tangible for us then to be able to achieve it.
Thank you, Ms. Lavina. And with that, let's dive into the panel discussion and requesting the participants to post the questions using the participants tab. And with that, my first question is to Ms. Anandita. So building more on the business models we've been talking about, what do you think are the 3 factors that help build successful inclusive business models? Ms. Anandita, you're on mute.
Okay, am I audible now? Okay.
Yes, you're audible.
Sorry. So, it's a very valid question, but I think, 3 is very less a number to consider. But I think, the first and foremost, which I really believe in and my organization believes in, is inclusive consciousness. That is very, very important. The change in perception, change in mindset, and considering stakeholders, because see, stakeholder management is an art. So considering stakeholders as corporate actors instead of just vulnerable entities of a company. company. So it's of prime importance. And if you deal professionally, the business has to be viable and will have a competitive advantage over others. And of course, developing a talent pool. Of course, we cannot ignore the diversity factor, which is very, very important, but we have to see the relevant qualification experience, of course. So diversity is not practiced, but only remains, most of the organizations, I'm very sorry to say, it is not practiced, and it is there in their PPTs and the pie charts. So there the problem becomes, it's just for the display of it. So gender diversity or regional diversity or any type of diversity should be brought into practice, and any imbalance functioning cannot run the business successfully. Another thing is training on understanding this practice to the employees, so that the culture is built in. That is very important. Then recognition and promotions at the time of the annual appraisals and all. I think it is very important to be completely unbiased, which helps the business grow because the employee grows. I think this linkage is very important. Then handling conflicts between employee and the company culture. It should be very tolerant and sensitive. Suppose you have your, some values and beliefs of the company. You have to, spread the culture that the employee's mission and vision also matches. Everything is on the same page. The collective effervescence. This is very important in any organizations for the company to grow. And if the company grows, the employee, definitely they have their prospect there. So and also to demonstrate this sensitivity is very important. Suppose you have a target to meet, we have to see that, suppose a religious festival or anything to do with a personal celebration, anything happens, we have to, there the rationale should come. That is very important. And also leadership can play a very, very major role here, because the more it happens, many organizations, they are employee friendly, women friendly, but when it comes to the leadership, the lady on the board, then unfortunately, not for every company you find the difference. So that is very important. And here, once the leader of a department, you become, it is very important for you to disseminate that same feeling, that same culture, because you become then accountable and you cascade the same culture down. So these are all the factors which, in a cohesive way, comprehensive way, can build in successful inclusion in business models.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Anandita. So with that, I would like to direct the next question to Ms. Claudia. How do we balance the polarity between all genders while achieving business inclusiveness and sustainability?
So allow me to mention the 2015 McKinsey diversity report that released pivotal data that demonstrated clear linkages between greater profitability and racial, ethnic, and gender diversity within organization. And the key finding on 2020 report is eco-similar data from the 2015 McKinsey report, and found that companies with greater gender diversity were 25% more likely to experience above average profitability compared to their counterparts. And similarly, the companies with greater ethnic and cultural diversity were 36% more likely to experience above average profitability. One extremely vital and somewhat novel concept that the report emphasized was the idea that diversity does not equal to inclusion. So the report notes that even where companies are more diverse, many appear as yet unable to cultivate work environments which effectively promote inclusive leadership and accountability among managers, equality and fairness of opportunity, and also openness and freedom from bias and discrimination. So where representation is important, it alone does not guarantee equity and inclusion. And some support from my point of view comes from the HR initiatives. So gender-focused human resource management could potentially widen organization talent pools, which facilitate the gathering of various opinions and stimulate more creative and innovative ways to conduct business. And in addition, a diverse workforce helps organizations to better understand customers from different backgrounds, resulting in more effective communication and product delivery. Finally, gender diversity indicates the inclusive culture of an organization that reinforces a favorable corporate image. And recording and disclosing the performance of gender diversity at governance and workforce level enables organizations to analyze their performance, assess and enhance the practices accordingly, and set up a long-term targets to strengthen the diverse, inclusive culture. So a lot of work to do, but with a long-term perspective.
Sorry, I just
very well answered. I think Mishma, has lost some connection, but very well answered. Mishma,
Yes.
are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you. And yes,
I
as
think she's back.
Ms. Claudia rightly said, diversity doesn't mean inclusion. So creating an inclusive environment is of top priority. So with that, I would like to ask Ms. Deepa on how inclusive business can strengthen women's economic empowerment.
Mishma, I think there has to be a lateral shift. What I'd say is a paradigm shift when we think about doing something which is meaningful for this cause. I see that there has to be a major change. There are many organizations who are coming forward, but there's this large caveat that has to be filled in. But if I was to answer this question, I would say there are three things that need to go into this. We say transforming work culture, settings, and experiences. That is one. Creating great, honest business practices which are transparent. That is two. Third is, most importantly, for this forum, I'm going to leave this for all of you to think that we should have a credit ratings index for organizations who are trying to come forward and support women, So imagine that this forum is happening. So we're really going to thank CIM SME for doing this. They should get credit ratings, that some thought gets into this particular quadrant. Very, very important. So incentivization index is important. Then we have support networks. We should have collaborative community networks that should be honed by organizations. Just like that, I gave you the PayPal example that 2,500 women came together for India. That is so interesting. Apart from that, we have companies like IBM who are doing programs like DG Girls, Codes, coding, software development, technology skill set building. So, focus has to be there. And most importantly, empathy. Empathy and emotional vulnerability. So when I say sensitization training, now this is something new. Many people have not heard about it, So building cultures of empathy, that is one. Creating more a consolidated ecosystem of women. For example, if you say funding, women entrepreneurs are not getting funding. They struggle so much. They're multitasker. But still, there is a challenge, which we think that'll take time, but it'll happen over a period of time. So I think these organizations can perform a pool to incubate women, to skill them up, to co-create, build collaborative communities, and also fund programs which are women-oriented, and do keep a perspective of inclusion. So this is my holistic approach, and I think incubation can play a major role. And many organizations, like back here at home, IIM Bangalore is doing so much when it comes to honing women in self-reliance. So I will not go on and on, but I will restrict my answer to this. And this is what I see: three things: leadership, compensation, and community collaboration is the goal to this, the question that you asked me. That's my answer to your question.
Thank you, Ms. Deepa.
Yeah.
And with that, moving on to the next question is for Ms. Leila. So how can we engage these 3 billion people who are at the base of the pyramid as part of inclusive business? And how important it is to achieve buy-in at the top as well? So over to you, Ms. Leila.
Thank you so much for the question, and it's a very big question. I will say, first and foremost, 3 billion people at the bottom of the pyramid is absolutely astronomical. I think, first of all, whilst this sounds very simplistic, one of the key facets to engagement is actually listening to what people truly want, and trying to break down the barrier between the upper echelons of leadership, in inverted commas, and also those who have their boots on the ground and are literally working away at these grassroots. I think that leaders need to engage by speaking to as many people as they possibly can. communicate, communicate, communicate. Again, it sounds such a very simple message, but I truly do not believe that it is possible to over communicate. I think when we look at the traditional leadership hierarchies, in inverted commas, of the past, we see these what would have been white ivory towers and people in their corner offices looking upon their staff and expecting them to queue up and ask questions. I think we need to abolish those days into the past and really break down the barriers as much as we possibly can. Leaders must be speaking with those at all different levels at the grassroots. They need to be getting out there into the field to truly understand what it is, what the true issues are. And that means, where I've observed in the past, almost a tendency in some leaders, not all leaders, but some leaders, to become a little bit insular in terms of surrounding themselves with people who tell them what they want to hear as opposed to what they need to hear. I think it's really critical that each and every one of us realizes, first of all, that everyone can be a leader and that every person has something that they can teach you. And this means being your authentic self as well, really being true to who you are. Gone are the days where corporate speak and lip service is something that we automatically take upon ourselves as the truth. In a day of social media being prolific, digital technology, an employee can take to Twitter if they are angry and put tweets on there about, what a leader may have said or not have said, or what they meant, what they had said. We live in a transparent world, so why not embrace that as much as we can? There's many positive benefits of digital media. There's many positive benefits of getting out there and getting your hands dirty in there with people who are doing their job, to the best of their ability on a day-to-day basis. So I think whilst there is, again, I refer to an earlier point that I made in the previous question, is there is never one silver bullet. But harness the opportunities that are at your fingertips. Use your leaders as beacons for good. Have them get out there with as many people as can. We've referenced a couple of great case studies from organizations that are doing great things. And I think of Lena Nair, who you may know, really very inspirational business leader, the CHRO for Unilever. We had her recently on a panel, and she does Learn with Lena sessions. She speaks out, she gets there into every nook and cranny of each of the businesses that she possibly can. I think she's a great example of a leader that doesn't just sit up in the ivory tower. Let's break down those barriers as much as we possibly can. I could go on again, but I won't. I know we are short on time.
Thank you, Ms. Lala, for putting it out so beautifully. And so building on that, the quota system was introduced for women on boards to correct the exclusion of capable and qualified women from corporate boards. However, we don't really see an actual change. The women directors are either relatives of those in power, or they're just mere board clerks, not real directors. And as women are asked to fit in rather than being themselves. That's exactly what Ms. Lela just said. So my question on this is to Ms. Lavina. How can this be tackled in order to have increased and efficient women in the boardroom? Over to you, Ms. Lavina.
Yeah, I think that's quite a controversial question, but a really good one. And, agreed to your point in terms of the stats as of 2019. I think we're sitting with 4.9% on Fortune 500 companies that are women, only 2% on the S&P 500. So still very much lagging behind, even though we knew that we need to make room for these things. I think, a particular interesting topic comes about when we have to look introspectively within our own organizations. And, are we doing the old famous, traits of the old schoolboys club, and sort of helping promoting friends, families, and the rest of it? Or are we actually looking for merit? So for me, it's very much, be open in terms of allowing people to show their merit and show their worthiness to actually be on those boards. Family or no family, friend or no friend, I think those are kind of really irrespective. It boils down to what are your key sort of skill sets and what is the true value add that you can bring to an organization. On the second point, it would be around governance and allowing your organization to have supportive enough policies and procedures to then allow for families or non-families, to actually be representative, right? And I think the last point is very much around values and culture. So, are you guys creating a culture that is very open? Are you creating transparency? What is the knock-on effect if I actually do have to employ somebody that is from my family that sits on the board? How does it then affect the fundamental culture of my organization? Does it demotivate employees or does it actually stimulate them even more? Um, so those are kind of, very much around the mindset of an organization and being very mindful and conscious of the things that we're doing and why we're actually doing them. Again, I believe it's been very much around, if
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Lauda. Yes, that was really greatly put. Ms. Claudia, would you like to build on that? Ms. Claudia, you're on mute.
Okay, so sorry for that. So just to testify the experience in Italy, because you know that we just changed the law and we have this so-called pink quota. So in Italy, we tightened the quotas and aim to getting more women on corporate boards, raising the threshold to 40%, and underlying the success of this measure, we have turned the country from one of the Europe laggards to one of the top 5 in less than a decade. So when former lawmaker Lela Golfo presented the law in 2011, you have to think that there were only 170 women on Italian corporate boards against more than 2,700 men. So a level of 6%. Now today, the level is around 30% and 40% into supervisory boards. So from my point of view, I'm not really aligned with this, what was published by the economics headlines, because in order to avoid any misunderstanding, I strongly believe in crucial goals, not that must not be confused with a mere board class participation. And those are linked to the mastery of specific competencies and the industry experience is important for a board member to have. Then I would say listening skills, the ability to emphasize and communicate with other board members, and the ability to constructively challenge the CEO, and finally, avoiding that kind of gregarious feeling to a certain extent, maintaining independence of ideas, and having the strength to be a discordant voice of reason and challenging opinions constructively. Independence of thought is the most valuable thing and is what is most appreciated. And at the end, with this commitment, one have to come to the conclusion that only generates the most value for the company, come to the result to be considered reliable, if you are a woman or a man.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Claudia. And with that, I have one question for Ms. Anandita on how can we develop ourselves and the mindset to be inclusive? So even if the society is, putting it out there and is it making it inclusive, but how do we develop our own mindsets to be inclusive? Over to you, Ms. Anandita.
Okay, it's a really, really very, very valid question. And first and foremost is that we need to believe in ourselves first. I think one of the speakers already have mentioned it. And empowerment can come through self-development. Equality and not priority should be our focus, definitely, for sure. And also, through education and consciousness. It is very important for us to be inclusive. Now, it cannot happen in a day or two. It will take some time. It can happen over the years. You cannot just join a company if you're in a leadership position to just say that, okay, I have come and now tomorrow I'm there and you better respect me. It doesn't happen like that. You need to develop yourself as a brand, create develop yourself in a brand to create the brand of the company, so your brand equity goes up, the company's brand equity goes up. So that is one of the very, very important factors. And also, as a leader, you should practice what you preach and extend the same behavior what you're expecting from other people. So there are, you were speaking about the base of the pyramid. So the bridging the gap between the base of the pyramid to the apex. One of our speakers already spoke about women in the boardroom. Trust me, it is extremely difficult, and there are a lot of hardships involved in it. And slowly and steadily, seamlessly, if you need to be an example, be a brand, so that people look up to you and you can extend the same behavior. So it is not about you believe in yourself to be inclusive, so that you can also work on the inclusive factor of your employees. Another thing, in today's date, in many countries the labor laws have changed, and we have seen that women, even they have got the permission to approval to work in mines, difficult places like mines and so forth. Now there is always a debate that women employees, they are always, when you compare the salary, it is always much lesser than the men. Now this mindset change is very important, and you as a woman, I would especially mention women here. So we can only change through our attitude. Another very important factor is that we need to develop ourselves as an individual, successful individual, a very ethical and very democratic individual, so that the manifestation happens in our workplace also, because you develop in yourself to be a very professional individual. I like to call it that way, so that you become a very successful professional and an individual and workplace where people can look up to you.
Thank you, Ms. Anandita. And so, as a concluding question, I would like to pose this for all the panelists. How can companies continue to focus on business inclusiveness and sustainability during these disruptive times? So, I'll start with Ms. Levina, and please let's keep it short because we almost have reached our time limit. So, yes, Ms. Levina, over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. So I think, the key fundamentals for me is people, technology, and you as a corporate. And, if you can get the balance between those three worlds, awesome. How can you do it? Is it around trust, control, and power? No. Times are changing, industries are changing. Everything is kind of being flipped all around. What do you want to stand for? What is the best conscious you that you want to bring into a workspace? Is it trust, transparency, fairness, equity? And those for me are some of the key values. I think for now we've already understood that women have already shown that they can and proven that we can lead on many fronts, from studies to actually being implemented in the workplace. So again, it's very much what do you want to be and where do you want to be as an organization? Do you want to be obsolete, or do you want to actually change, embrace, and actually jump on the bandwagon?
Thank you, Ms. Levina. Ms. Deepa?
Yeah, I think that the best thing to be taught in this forum is that let's look at inclusion as something which is immersive, which is co-creation, So I'll say, when I say co-creation, it means a symbiotic relationship. When I say that, that means hybrid work cultures. So when Intel goes to students and says, I'm looking for a coder to build my next data analytics hackathon, that is a co-creation, So I think companies need to be very clear, and enterprise need to be very clear that CSR inclusion cannot be, merged in one. There can be a symbiotic relationship, and they can co-create through hybrid working models like we are doing today, the global conference sitting at this forum. We can do wonders in the virtual world in pandemic. That is what I feel can bring a lot of value. Yeah, Mishma, that's my
Yes.
answer.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Deepa. Ms. Lala?
I love what you just said there, Deepa, about the symbiotic relationship. And just, I guess following on from that, I would say looking at diversity, inclusion, and belonging and sustainability in a holistic manner. And that means, this is not a zero sum gain in the sense that one person's gain is equivalent to another person's loss. It is not that case. This is where the overlapping interests equal a win-win for both parties, and looking at this in a holistic manner and looking at all areas of diversity, inclusion and belonging. We've just released the Mackenzie Dallas Packer review, which is the first of its kind, where we have looked at 10 different aspects of diversity, inclusion and belonging. And that's everything from gender diversity through to LGBTQ+, to mental health, through to disability, through to religious and cultural beliefs, because actually many of us may identify with more than one of those pieces. I, as an individual, I'm a Chinese female, but I was adopted by white British parents, and so my experiences cross over a number of areas, and including mental health. And so I think we need to look at things in a more holistic manner, and also recognise that actually where there is benefit for, say, women, that also then has another residual impact on the LGBTQ plus community, and certainly not a zero-sum game. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lala. Okay, Ms. Claudia?
Yeah, let me say that in some ways the COVID-19 crisis has become a dry run for the sustainability agenda and an opportunity for companies to see how they can take an expanding range of ESG challenges. The risk of a pandemic was known, and yet the crisis has exposed a lack of adaptability and resilience at many companies. But the pandemic has not only raised the stakes of for sustainability, also shed light on moves that fly in the face of corporate responsibility. So a company urging employees to work in offices despite official government guidelines, for example, or a CEO receiving a substantial rise when millions lose their jobs. So the pandemic is showing companies also the option for flexibility in paid also sick leave and sponsored childcare, as well as work schedules and location. And while the crisis exposes weaknesses in existing operation, it opens the door for companies to shorten supply chains and make them more transparent, for sure, and socially conscious and environmentally friendly. So from financial point of view, from the financial markets point of view, ESG investing was already poised for growth, pushing corporates towards tangible and better inclusiveness and sustainability matter. So in this equilibrium, working inside and outside, I think that companies can achieve a better, commitment towards inclusiveness and sustainability.
Thank you, Ms. Claudia. And finally, Ms. Anandita.
Okay, I think most of the speakers already have covered. Now, here is the time, because we have seen, many changes in behavioral pattern in individuals, in your employees, because of the uncertainty around. Now, here the humane leader should come up and act. That angle should come out. Understand their emotions and sentiments, fairness and respect, value and belongings, and confidence and inspiration. This is very important. There has to be a very democratic atmosphere right at this moment, and any layoffs it can happen because all the companies, all the sectors are going through immense financial economic stress, but the layoffs or curtailing of staff strength should be completely unbiased and based on performance metrics. And here I would say a major role the HR department should play, the HR leader should play. They, instead of becoming management, this is very, very important for the organization to run, because today you're in trouble, you cannot bear, but you need human assets. Without human assets, you cannot run a company. That has to be kept in mind.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Anandita, and all the speakers for such a power-packed session and informative and insightful session. So I would like to conclude with a few statements. Countries, communities, and economies cannot thrive without the equal participation of both women and men. Tackling these challenges will require significant commitment and investment by all sectors of society. Now, more than ever, we need to respond together to the call to action to press forward and progress gender parity at the base of the pyramid. Without addressing the social, cultural, environmental, and legal conditions that hold women back, inclusive business models will fail to make lasting improvements to women's economic empowerment. But it is not just up to the private sectors or companies or NGOs, but it is up to each one of us to nurture the mindset, fight for it, and to be included and not left behind. So with it, I once again would like to thank our panelists, Ms. Anandita Mukherjee Sinha, Ms. Claudia Segre, Ms. Deepa Sayil, Ms. Lavina Ramkisson, and Ms. Leila McKenzie for joining us and for such an intuitive and thought-provoking session. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Wonderful speakers, I must say. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So with that, audience, we'll take another short commercial break, but we're going to come back with some inspirational stories from some of the women leaders from across the globe. So please do wait for us. We'll join back in 2 minutes.
Good work, Mishma. I must congratulate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Anand.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.